Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on July 9th, 2022. Friends, the temperatures have been rising all over India. More dangerous temperatures are seen in monsoon seasons and winter seasons than the summer seasons. From the 30 years from 1950s to 1980s, now the temperatures have been higher in winter by zero point 0.3 degrees centigrade, and during the monsoons the temperatures have been rising. As per the Center for Science and Environment, the rise is by zero point 0.3 degrees centigrade. The Indian Meteorological Department estimates this rise as 0.4 degree centigrade. The average temperatures during the summer in the northwest is 30 degrees centigrade, and in the northern it is 31 degrees centigrade. The average minimum temperatures are also daily average minimum temperatures are higher by 4 degrees centigrade in northwestern India, and in south peninsular India it is higher by 4.5 degrees centigrade. In northwest India it is higher by 2 degrees centigrade. What this shows is that the climate's erratic behavior and uneven monsoons are because of the rise in temperatures, because of the increased use of fossil fuels, the increased burning of the fossil fuels without even thinking about the environmental protection. Both the Center for Science and Environment and the Indian Meteorological Department have been conducting research and studies on this, and the climate impact studies are being conducted. Yesterday we have seen the cloud burst in the Amarnath shrine, before the Amarnath shrine, and the road is blocked. The cloud burst happens when the clouds with a heavy density is pushed by the winds towards the top of the mountains on its journey to the troposphere, and when the cloud cannot no longer sustain the cold temperature and it bursts in a very heavy downpour of 10 millimeters per hour. So the cloud burst recently, yesterday, is a vindication of the rising temperatures during the winter, during the monsoon season. What happens is that we have seen also the heat waves claiming lives. Around 2000 lives have been claimed by the heat waves in northwest India. In southern India it is still 2300. So heat waves are also claiming lives. What has to be done is that some measures are needed to protect our environment. The next article is about this same topic, the planting of the trees and building up more and more carbon sink. The sequestering process of the trees have to be enhanced by more and more of planting of trees and forestation across India. As per the Bonn Climate Convention, the Bonn Convention in 2011 anticipated around 150 million trees would be planted by 2020 and 300 million trees by 2030. India has joined the Bonn Convention in 2015, and India plans to plant 26 lakhs of trees by 2030. So, United Nations decade for afforestation is the present decade of 2020 to 2030. India plans to build a carbon sink of 2 billion of the 2 billion of carbon emissions, 2 billion tons of carbon emissions. The carbon sink, trees are the carbon sink because the trees absorb the carbon dioxide and just protect the environment. So forestation, the last month, June 5th, was the World Environment Day. If it was June 5th, which was the World Environment Day, this month, July, is the Vana Mahotsav month. It is the Vana Mahotsav started in reference to a Punjabi botanist in July 1947, and Kanayalal Munshi, the environmental minister, in 1950 took it as a very serious cause. So, Vana Mahotsav, let us make the Vana Mahotsav a very grand success by planting more and more trees. How trees are to be planted? The trees are to be planted in such a manner that various kinds of trees are planted in a place, in an area, so that the ecosystem consists of various kinds of species which thrive on the ecosystem with different varieties of trees, and the different varieties of trees support the natural ecosystem. In Australia, from where the eucalyptus is having its origin, is planting just eucalyptus plants. What happens is that eucalyptus has a absorption capacity and more water is being absorbed. So such kind of plantations we don't need in India. We need the afforestation of varieties of trees. So let us make our July month Vana Mahotsavam a grand success. Then moving on to the Iran and Israel shadow war. Till 1977, when the kingdom was ruling is Iran, the Israel-Iran coordination and cooperation was very huge. Israel even attempted or committed for a missile supplying partnership with Iran then till 1979, when Shah King was overthrown by the present radicalist forces alive till now. These people are just throwing the Israel and the Arab nations against the radicalist forces in Iran. What happens is that most of the ties have been broken. United States and UK also joined Israel in hating Iran. The Iran nuclear capabilities were put a ban, and Iran just went on ahead with its nuclear programs because 2015 agreement collapsed, the Vienna Convention collapsed, and the Obama administration's policies of lifting the sanctions on quid pro quo with the stopping of the nuclear armament stopped, and Iran went ahead with the nuclear programs. The Trump administration's attempt to bring the Iran to its table on an imploring status failed because Iran went ahead with its program. The octopus doctrine means hitting the enemy not on the tentacles but on its head. Israel is following this strategy along with Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations. It is hitting Iran. It is hitting the Iran deployments in Syria and even the main strategic locations in Iran. How far this shadow war is going, the Iran has again got a kind of support from US in the Biden administration now. It just extends its support to Iran, but Iran wants not the repetition of the 2015 agreement, a binding agreement. If the US is interested, the Iran will support it. So this shadow war is affecting many. There was an attack of Houthi forces supported by Iran in the Saudi Aramco oil exploration plant, and therefore there was another attack on Iranian scientists by the Israel. So this war is going on and on. What happens is that this is a very unhealthy practice which must stop. Then moving on to the Businessline, we have the Johnson administration's exit, the Johnson's exit, while the war in Ukraine is going on and the UK is on the brink of a very high inflation of 9% and the negative growth, is a very untimely exit. The conservationists will have to harp in or bring under the control, the rising growth, stagnancy, and the stagflation and the inflation. So what happens is that the UK is already facing lots of economic problems, much of which is in inflation. It has a huge public debt which it is struggling to replace. The industrial growth is stagnant. UK mostly depends on Qatar for its oil needs, so its policy on Ukraine will not affect it. But it has not charted out a clear strategy towards European Union. So what happens is that UK will not get support from most of the European Union countries and G7 countries in this instability which is striking after Johnson's exit. UK is having a very crumbling posture now. It is the fifth largest economy in the world in terms of GDP. If it has to survive, it has to find another concrete survivor of the Johnson exit. Otherwise, what will happen is that this economic recession, already US is threatened in threat of recession. This economic recession will grip UK in its bigger might. Then moving on to the imposition of cess, 23,000 rupees cess on oil producing companies in India amidst the cap of Russian oil price by the G7 countries is threatening. What happens is that India wants to ban the oil exports. Therefore, it has imposed a rupees $6 on petrol and $13 on export of diesel. What transpires is that the exporting of the oil will stop. The major exporters of oil are the ONGC, the Nayara, the Cain Energy, and the Reliance. What will happen is that these cesses and the export duties are going to ensure supply of oil inside India. However, this is calculated on the basis of the windfall profit between the $110 per barrel and $70 per barrel earlier. So this $40 per barrel is exacted as a profit tax by Indian government amidst the shortfall of supplies, the global supply chains, when the sanctions on the Russia in the wake of the Ukraine war is threatening the global supply chains. Oil prices are going to soar around $350 per barrel because Russian regular supply of oil is around 6 million barrels per day. So United States cannot think of imposing, or the G7 countries cannot think of imposing a ban on Russian oil or capping its prices at a very higher price. So this energy crisis is going to grip the world and its effect on Indian government also. However, what about the consumers? The consumers are already wary of rising prices of oil, and already we are facing prices of oil and the domestic LPG gas. Recently, the domestic LPG gas per cylinder has been increased by 50 rupees. So these kinds of situations are going to, the energy crisis is looming large and going to extend its tentacles on the consumers in India and all over the world. The countries have to just rope in some policies to stop the war or deter Russia from going on with the kinds of global supply disruptions which happened during the pandemic times. Friends, I have come to the conclusion of the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on July 9, 2022. Hope you enjoyed all the discussions today. I will come tomorrow with some more discussions. Till then, bye, good night.